Esta es
This
Global
call is now
Telling.
being
Usted
recorded.
tiene una llamada prepagada de
TITO.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Tel Link.
Hello, hello.
Oh,
Hello.
okay. Hello.
Hello, Tito. All right. So I want to welcome you to you have a collect call from, and that's the name of our YouTube channel here. Tito, this would be the first time that he would be coming on, and he's gonna be sharing his journey, through the California Department of Corrections and his whole pretty much his whole life story. So I want to go ahead and thank you for calling in and participating in this with us.
Okay.
All right. So, could you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience here and just give them a little bit of information of whatever you want the audience to know about you?
Okay. My name is Joseph Garcia. For the most part of my life, I've been people know me by TITO. I'm from a small town in Riverside County by the name of Lake Elsinore, and I've been down for like 41 years now.
Man, that's definitely. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm 61 years old. I'm 61 years old, and for the most part, I'm pretty healthy still. So that's a blessing.
All right. And I want to go ahead and point out an interesting a fact that I looked up. So you have a C number, and from when I found on the CDCR website, C numbers were issued back. I believe they started in 1978 all the way through 1985. Well, when was it that you were issued your CDCR number?
I went to the county jail in 1983, and I got my CDC number in 1984.
Okay, so that time that you went to the county jail, they sent you up to prison, and you just pretty much got a number and went home.
That was my very first CDC number.
And that's the one that you have to this day, right? You never discharged that number?
Yes.
Oh,
Never
wow.
discharged it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm definitely interested in listening to your journey and hear what you have to say.
Okay.
All right.
It's been a long one.
Yeah, to say the least. Like I mentioned to you the other day, man, I'm 43, so I mean, just to think about it, you've been in prison since I was the age of 2, or pretty much.
Yeah, it's been a long time, since 1984.
Wow, man. So let me ask you, Joseph, what's your earliest memory as from childhood, whether it's good or bad?
Well, that happens to be the best part of my life. I can remember as far back as when I was 5 years old. We were living in Bakersfield, California at that time, and my mother used to take me to work with her. She worked in the field, in the potato fields, so she used to take me with her, and I liked that. I remember to this day that I liked my time with her there. And around age of 6, we moved to Paris, California. And my grandfather helped my mother get a little ranch. So it was a couple of hills over from his. So we lived there all of my life. That's where I lived. for the most part, right there in Paris, California, in the mountains. It was called Meadowbrook. And we raised animals. My grandmother and grandfather, they had animals. Pigs, goats, cows, chickens. I used to get up early in the mornings and feed them. My grandmother used to always take me with her, like into the hills to pick mushrooms, wild mushrooms. We'd pick them and she would cook them. I'd help her pick nopales and clean them and bag them up for my tias and tios. I used to run around in the hills. I would go rabbit hunting, quail hunting. My grandfather taught us how to hunt, how to respect the animals and stuff. If we kill them, we eat them. That was the best part of my childhood growing up, was just out there in them hills.
And for those of us that might not be familiar with Lake Elsinore, what surrounding cities and what county is Lake Elsinore located in?
Lake Elsinore is Riverside County in Southern California. It's surrounded by Paris, California, Corona, California, Hemet, Marietta, Temecula.
Okay,
it's
yeah.
Right in the middle of all those. And all of that is Riverside County.
And would that be considered the IE, the Inland Empire?
Yeah, that it's considered the Inland Empire.
Okay, yeah, that I do remember. As a kid, hearing about the IE and whatnot. And as I got older, what I've been informed is that IE it's made up of San Bernardino County and Riverside County.
Yeah, anything inland from the ocean, it's IE. So all that part right there is considered the IE. When I was growing up there, it was really small. It was dirt roads for the most part. No signal lights. Stop sign.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
A stop sign every now and then. Couple of stores, really small. They even had hitching posts in front of some of the stores still.
Wow, man, that's way back.
Yeah, it was a really small area, but now it's grown really big.
And during the time you were growing up, what years what years was this in?
This was from when I moved. When my mother took us to Paris, California, this was in, I'm going to say 68, 69, 1968, 69. And my family to this day still lives there.
And just to paint a picture for our audience here, like back then during those days, was there telephone service? Was there color TV? Radios? What kind of electronics or things were people using back then?
Well, when I was a youngster, there's 13 of us in my family, so there was telephones, but we couldn't afford one, so we didn't have one. But my grandmother, she had one, and so we used to go. My mother used to go and use my grandmother's phone if she had to, call the doctors or anything else. She used my grandma's phone. She would go over to her mother's, and use her phone. But the TV, our TV, was black and white. But back then you get up and you change it with your hand.
and
they didn't really. There was really no. The only like I tell these youngsters in here, I say the electronics that I grew up with was the Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, man. Man, I used to love the Etch-a-Sketch as a kid. I couldn't draw anything, but I used to love
Yeah.
trying to jump on it.
That's the same thing I would. I couldn't draw nothing, but I'd make a bunch of lines. That and the Light Bright.
Oh,
The Etch-a-Sketch and the Light Bright.
yeah, man. I could definitely relate with the Etch-a-Sketch and the Light Bright, man. We couldn't even afford a Light Bright.
That was the only technology I played with out there.
Man, so times have definitely changed. And could you paint a picture of us, like of what it costs? You know, like if you would go like buy some milk at the store, or bread, or eggs, or things like that. How much did things cost back then?
Well, with the eggs, we had our own chickens, so we didn't buy eggs. But I remember there was this little store, and it was a little mom and pop's, like a little shack. It was called the Bread Store, and we used to go. It was right off Highway 74, and my mom used to go there, and she would get her bread, donuts, and little pastries, but they were day old. So they sold them real cheap. So for like a loaf of bread back then, it was probably like 50 cents. The pastries were like a dime or something like that. They were really really cheap. The phone calls, we used to if we went to the phone booth, it was a dime, nickel, and a quarter. A quarter was long distance. The dime, you could talk forever with the dime.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
Milk, you probably get a gallon of milk for $1.50. Everything back then was real cheap. I remember a soda. You could get a soda for 25 cents and drink it and turn the bottle in for a dime.
Man, times have definitely changed since back then. And go ahead.
I remember when I was young. For the TV to work, one of us boys would have to go climb up on the roof and you by hand turn the antenna until somebody in the house would say, "Okay, leave it there," just so we could get a channel in.
Man, now,
If
man,
it was raining, we still had to go do it.
and whoever who how would you guys choose who would go up? Would you guys take turns, or
we would take turns. The last one that did it, then it would start all over again. And if you could bribe them with, "Hey, I'll give you this. If you take my turn, then that works too." But if not, you had to go up there and do it.
Yeah. And what kind of things were you guys doing to have fun during that time?
Well, because I lived in the hills, and like I said, we lived on a small ranch. My mom had pretty much every fruit tree you could name, and we used to go down there and throw fruit at each other. We'd have fruit fights, me and my brothers. And we used to ride we had little dirt bikes, so we rode around in the hills all the time. And again, we always went hunting. I had a horse. My dad bought me a horse. I remember I was like 7 years old. I got my first horse. And I used to go to school, come back from school, do my chores, whatever I was supposed to do, and then I would jump on my horse and go out.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
I used to go out in the hills and just ride him out there. But my mom didn't like him because he would, whenever he got tired, he would throw me off him and he would go home. And my mom would look out and she would see the horse in the pen and she would tell my other brothers, "Hey, go find your brother." The horse threw him again, and they would have to go out there and find me and make sure I was okay.
All right, and I know the call's about to hang up right now. We're down to about 20 seconds. If you wouldn't mind calling us back, and then also if you could do the audio prompts in Spanish, and pretty much any call that you do back, doing it in Spanish, that would be great, and I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll call right back.
All right, perfect, man. So we're I'm not sure if you guys caught it in the chat, but you know, he's or possibly you even heard the start of this journey here. So he's been down since the early 80s. I believe he said he's been down for 41 years, and he has a C number. This would be I would say the our guest here that would has been down in the California Department of Corrections the longest so far as anybody that's come on here. You know, earliest numbers before would be an E number, which was Richard Martinez, which was our first guest. Gary had mentioned that he had somebody that wanted to come on, which ended up being Joseph Garcia, which is Tito, that he wanted to share his journey. We spoke a few days ago, I think like on Thursday we spoke, and he said he was interested in coming on, and there he is. He's calling back.
This call is now being
Global
recorded.
Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Tito.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
Hello.
Okay.
All right. So you were talking about your horse that would throw you off when when it would get tired.
Yeah, whenever it got tired, it wouldn't give me no warning. It was just wherever we were at, he would dump me. He would throw me off, and he always went home. So if my mom walked out and happened to look in a pen and he was there, then she would send my older brothers to come and look for me because she knew that he threw me. And they would just go out there and find me, and I'd come home.
And amongst your siblings, where did you fall? Were you the smallest, the youngest, the middle, or?
No, I had 5 sisters. They're all older than me, and then 3 brothers after that. They're all older than me, and I was the fourth son. And then I have brothers under me.
Oh, okay.
So I was like right in the middle, almost in the middle.
And I'm not sure if you recall, but when we spoke last week, I had mentioned to you that when we do these interviews here, we do them live, and we have interactions from the audience here. And I have a comment from one of our dedicated viewers that goes by he goes by ICEMAN, and he writes in the comments, "Saludos, saludos to James and to Tito. I was born in 1965. I remember all this pricing." So he remembers, that everything was way cheaper back then.
Yeah, I was born in '63, so he's like 2 years younger than me.
Yeah. And you were, and just to confirm or to verify, you were born in the U.S., right?
Yes, I was born in Harbor General in Los Angeles, California.
Okay. And where was your family originally from?
My mother was from Los Angeles. My father was from Bakersfield, and my mother's parents were from Arizona and Mexico. My grandfather, he was from Mexico, Zacatecas, and my grandmother, she was from Arizona. She was I don't remember what part of Arizona, but that's where she was from.
Okay. And what do you consider yourself? Do you consider yourself Chicano, Latino,
Yeah.
Mexicano?
No. I consider myself Mexican American.
Mexican American. Okay. Okay. All right. So by this time, so you would technically be like second or third generation already American, right? Or Mexican American?
Yeah, yeah, yep. Because my mother was here, and then me, So
Yeah. So, what was your what was your household dynamic growing up? Did you have both of your parents in your house growing up?
okay, that was like my mother. She was she was the disciplinary and everything. She uh she broke her back trying to make sure that we had food on the table, a house over. My grandfather helped her get that little ranch and stuff. He went to World War II when he was 19 years old, and when he was overseas, he got addicted to heroin, and he could never shake that. It stayed with him all the way up until, man, I'm going to say at least in his late 60s. I don't think he stopped until he was too old to do it anymore. The doctor told him his heart would give out on him. So I think that scared him straight to where he stopped using it, but he was still drinking. He drank a lot. He used to, back in the day, there was a wine called Thunderbird, and that was his favorite thing to do, is drink that. But he was always out and about, so my mom was she was the one that pretty much took care of us and raised us. My dad was there. He was there every day, but he did his own little thing, and he would come home late, and we'd already be asleep. If we caught him in the, when he would come, like when we got out of school or something, and he would make us go out there and clean the yard or something. But my mom's the one that raised us. My dad, how can I say? I love my dad. That's him and my grandfather, the only two men I really had in my life. And but he was really abusive to my mom. He would.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
When I had to me, I lived my childhood because I woke up and I was out in the hills and I didn't have to worry about nothing. The only thing that I was scared of my dad for a long time because I used to watch him do that to my mom, and so I was scared of him, but I still loved him, and it was kind of hard, but I just dealt with it in my own little way, I guess. Me and my brothers. And then once we were all old enough, then he recognized that and he stopped putting his hands on her. But it was now that I know more about from being in prison and learning these groups, going to these groups and learning, it was, I guess you could say it was abusive, because I witnessed all that. But when I was young, I never thought of it like that. I was just, scared of him because I witnessed him beating on my mom. But now that I'm older and I understand, he started, like I said, at 19 years old. He went overseas and he witnessed a lot of death, so I guess he gravitated towards heroin, and that kind of messed his life up, so he didn't know how to be a father, I guess you could say. He did it his way, he never put his hands on none of us. He let my mom do that, and she did it. She didn't tolerate no too much. She told you one time and that was it.
And when she would discipline you guys by putting her hands on you, what would cause her to do something like that? What would you have to do to push her to that point?
Well, I can remember a few times, like once, we like I said, we lived in the hills. So she would, on Christmas, we would get like 2 BB guns to share for the boys, and she would tell us, my grandfather always taught us, don't point any type of gun at any human or nothing, and don't kill nothing you're not going to eat. But being kids, we would shoot her birds, and she did not like that. So she would tell us, hey, if I catch you shooting the birds, I'm going to take it away from you, and I'm going to hit you, She didn't say it in them words, but we knew what she meant. And then, so if she caught us, especially her hummingbirds, because she loved them, she would take the gun, and anything in her hand, we got it. And if she told us, and breaking glass with the guns, we would shoot at bottles and break beer bottles or whatever bottle was out there. She didn't like that. She just, when she wanted us to do something, she expected us to do it, because she wasn't going to tolerate messing around. And her rules were, the girls clean the house and the boys go outside. You got work outside to do, and the girls would do it. So if we got caught inside the house while they were cleaning, then we would get it too.
And would that be every day, or Monday through Friday? How often were you guys required to be outside, and your sisters to be inside to clean up?
Oh yeah, that was every day. If it was raining, then that was different, or real cold or something. Then we go to our room while they're cleaning out the front room, kitchen, and all that. But if that sun was out, we were outside. And no matter what, if it was raining or whatever, the animals, her thing was, you want to eat in the morning, so do those animals, so get out there and feed them. So we were out there early in the morning. I remember we used to get up like about 5 in the morning, feed all the animals, come in, take a shower, eat, get ready for school, and walk. We would walk like probably about a half mile just to catch the bus, and stand. If it was raining, we'd stand out there in the rain, waiting for the bus.
And how was school growing up?
Made sure we went to school. I didn't really like school. I didn't like it at all. My brothers and sisters, they didn't have a problem with it. I had a problem with it. I didn't want to go. My mom was she was a reading teacher, so she got up and she left, and she had to be there early, and we had to catch the bus. So my older sisters would make sure that we were dressed and fed, and we were gone. And they seemed to like it. I never really tripped on them getting in trouble for trying to ditch or nothing like that. But for some reason, I did not like school. I just couldn't get the hang of that. I only made it to the 7th grade.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
I only made it to the 7th.
During those times, were the teachers allowed to discipline you guys, like with rulers? Because I would hear stories.
Oh, yes. Back in them times, if you got in any kind of fight, you would get called to the office, and the principal had a wooden paddle, and it was a thick one with holes in it, and you would get it depending on what you called in there for. That's how many swats you got, and that was legal back then.
And your parents?
I got called in there a few times.
And your parents didn't have any issue with that? That was just the way it was?
Nope. Yeah, they were like, if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, they encouraged it. My mother did. Like I said, my dad really didn't have no. He didn't really say too much. My mom did. My mom was the one that ran the household.
Yeah. Wow. So you said you went to school up until the 7th grade. So you were like what, like 13, maybe 13 years old, possibly 14. What did you do?
I was 12. I was 12 going on 13. What happened was I was my sisters. All my sisters are older than me, so their boyfriends would come and visit them at my house, and I started, gravitating towards them and stuff like that. And they were smoking. Back in them days, we called it weed. They were smoking weed and drinking, so I would get little hits off them. And one day I told one of my sister's boyfriends, I said, "Hey, man, let me get some of that." And back in them days, we called it, "Let me get a can."
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
We tell them, "Let me get a can of weed." A can of weed is not a can. It's a little baggie. It's like about 3 fingers of weed in it. But we called it a can of weed. So he gave it to me, and I rolled a bunch of joints, and I started selling them in school, $1 a piece. And I was in class one day. I think it was math class, and one of my cousins called me out to the door. So I went out to the door, and he said, "Hey, let me get one. So I said, "It's in my locker here." So I gave him my combination, and he went and did it. But I told him, "Hey, don't get caught, fool." And he got caught. So when he got caught, they took him to the office, and my mother, she was a 7th grade reading teacher.
All right. So the call came to an end. These calls only last 15 minutes, so he should be calling us back shortly. Once he does, we'll go ahead and continue. I'm hoping the audio is good, and the only reason I say that is because I do see that it's a little bit laggy on this side as far as the visuals and whatnot. But hopefully that's not affecting the audio, and the audio is not being affected. I was trying to adjust some of the settings here on my stream, because I've noticed that it's been like that since I started, but I never got around to fixing the settings and whatnot till today. I was trying to adjust them, watching some videos on how to get the optimal settings for live streaming and whatnot. But if Eric's still in here, I want to mention something funny to you. So you know, like your picture, when I looked at it, it looks like you don't have any arms. So like, Gene Gators, he doesn't have any arms, because I normally stream from my laptop, but today I'm streaming from my computer. And oh no, shit, he has a gray shirt on. Oh man,
Esta es
This
Global
call is now
Talent.
being recorded.
Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
TITO.
un individuo encarcelado de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Talent.
hello.
Okay. So, anyways, he got caught, and they asked him where he got it, and he told them where he got it. So they called me into the office. Me and another friend of mine that he's always with me. So they figured if I'm involved, he's involved. So they had us all three in there, and the principal said, "You guys sit in the hallway, and I'm gonna call your mother's in here and the sheriff's department." So we went out and sat in the hallway, and my mom came in from her class. She looked at me and walked back there to the principal's office. And I looked at my cousin and my friend, and I said, "I'm not staying here." And they're like, what are we going to do? I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to run away. So all three of us got up and we ran out the door, went to my locker because I knew they were going to go search my locker. I went to my locker and took all the stuff I had out of there, and we left. We ran away to Corona, California, to one of my friends' sister's house that lived down there. And we eventually we got caught, and they brought us back. Took us to the juvenile hall right there, and that was the first time I went to juvenile hall. And I was 12 years old.
And when you went to juvenile hall, were you scared, or what kind of thoughts were running through your mind once you figured out or found out that you were going to go to juvenile hall?
Well, I'm gonna keep it real. Yes, I was scared. That was my very first time. So, and in Riverside Juvenile Hall, they when you first go in their intake, you're locked in a little room by yourself. So I sat in there and snivelled, and said to myself, I'm not doing this again. But they called my parents, and my mom came and got me, and I went home, took my beating, and I had a court date now. She had to take me to the sheriff's department because they wanted to talk to me. So I had to go and talk to them, and I got a court date. So I went. My mom made sure I was at my court hearing, and they gave me probation and continuation. Back then, they had a thing called continuation school. That means if you didn't make it in the regular school, they sent you over there with the troublemakers. Continuation. You only went from like 9 in the morning to 12, and then you were off.
You know what? I am familiar with continuation. They had them back in the mid '90s, and I went to them. But that you think about it now, like how is that gonna help you? Going to school for 3 hours a day. From 9 to 12. That's definitely my.
And it wasn't really school because we just went in there and sat there and cut it up with each other and didn't even do I don't remember ever having no homework or doing very much of anything there, but just hanging out and waiting for the 12 o'clock to leave.
And let me take you back to juvenile hall. When you went to juvenile hall, how long did you spend there?
Well, the first time I went, I didn't stay there long.
Mm-hmm.
I was just there overnight. My mom left me. She could have came and got me. And
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
She could have came and got me within the hour because they called immediately. Hey, your son's been arrested. We got him. He's right here in Riverside Juvenile Hall. But she chose to leave me there overnight to teach me tough love. So I stayed there overnight, and she came and got me in the morning. It was probably like about 10, 11, and took me home.
And
they were real lenient back in them days. They would let your parents take you home if it was a minor, something minor like that.
Like that. And how long? So you got out. You were on probation. And when did you ever have to spend any significant amount of time in juvenile hall from any probation violations?
Yes. Well, I'm going to say within 30 days of that, I ran away from home again. And back in them days, if you ran away from home and your parents called the sheriffs and told them that, hey, you left the house, they would go look for you. And like I said, Elsinore was a very small town, so they didn't have no problem finding me and arresting me and taking me to juvenile hall again. And there was a pattern, and I kept doing it. Like every time I would tell my mom, "Hey, can I go do this?" She would say no, and then so I would be like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna leave then," and I would sneak out and I'd be gone. And she would call the sheriff's department and let them know that I was missing, and they would find me immediately. And that's a violation off the top. I remember the judge telling my mom that he doesn't think that she can control me, so he's gonna step in and have me do some time to see if that will help, because I'm not going to school now. I'm out there on the street. So I think the very first time I did, it was probably like 3 months in juvenile hall, and that only made me want to go back, because back in them days in Riverside juvenile hall, there was co-ed. There was girls with us. We went to school in there together. We had dances in there. We had, on weekends, we had picnics with the girls. And I met this girl. She was from Indio, California. And she was my girlfriend, my first girlfriend in there. So she was there for a while. So I just kept coming back. They would release me, and I would come back just to see her. My mother didn't know that at the time. She would sit me down and, "Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you, you know?" And I didn't want to tell her, "Well, it's because I got a girlfriend in there." I just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she would have slapped me silly for that, you know?
Yeah.
But that's why I kept, at the beginning, I kept going back. I would just run away because I knew I was gonna end up in juvenile hall. They were gonna catch me anyway. But that's what kept me going back. And then, like I said, my sister's boyfriends, they were all older, and they all lived in Lake Elsinore, and they were a part of a little group. So I started hanging out with them. And then I was hearing, stories, and it was appealing to me. So I just followed suit, and I started running around on the street and getting in trouble for different things and getting caught. And I would end up back in juvenile hall. And then one of my older brothers, he came from Bakersfield, and he was going to stay in Lake Elsinore for a while, him, his wife, and his 2 girls. So after I was probably about 15, going on 15, and he told my mom that he wanted me to come and stay with him because I'm getting out of hand, and he was going to make sure that he was going to straighten me out. So she didn't want to, because I was standing right there when he was talking to her, and she was like, "No, I'm his mother. I'll straighten him out. He has a father. He doesn't need another one." And but he kept trying to convince her that I should go stay with him. So she finally gave in, and she let me go stay with them for, I think it was like 4 months. And while I was there, I got into some trouble, and I learned more about my husband, because he was always busy doing his thing like my dad. So I just knew he was my brother. He was my older brother, and that was pretty much it. I was never paid any attention to him really until I went to go live with him. So that didn't help. So I ended up got into me and 3 other guys and one of my little brothers. We got into we actually jumped one guy, and we all got busted for it. But me and my friends told the cops that my little brother didn't have nothing to do with it, so they let him go. And they arrested us 3, took us to juvenile hall, and they charged us for assault and battery. And that was my very first big trouble. Because then the judge sentenced me to 9 months in a place called Boys Republic. It's located in Chino, California. It's still
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
It still exists to this day. And so I went there, and I didn't like it there. So me and a couple other guys, we AWOL'd. We ran away from there. And again, we went to Corona, California, and stayed there for a couple of days until we got caught. And then we went back to juvenile hall, and the judge sent me right back. He said, "I'm sending you right back." And he gave me more time. I think he added like 90 more days. So we went back, and I stayed there for about, I'm going to say a good 3 months. My mom came to visit me and my sisters. And I really didn't have no reason to leave, but there was a 7-Eleven down the street from that placement, that boys' home. And me and a few friends, we went down there and we waited till somebody came by, and we asked them to buy us some liquor. So he bought it for us. We took it back to the boys' home and boys' placement. And we were behind, there was a church there on the grounds where we all were supposed to go to church on the weekends, and we were drinking behind the church. And some guy, one of our friends came and told us that they were coming to get us because they knew what we did, and they were going to send us back to the hall, juvenile hall. So we all ran again. And this time I went home. And my mom.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
My mom was trying to talk me into turning myself in, but I wasn't having it, and I refused to do it. And she didn't want to call the cops and tell them where I was, but she kept trying to get me to turn myself in, but I wouldn't. So, I went back out there on the streets in Lake Elsinore, and they got me, and they sent me back to juvenile hall. I stayed in juvenile hall, went to court again, and the judge said, "Okay, look, I'm going to send you back. You're going back." So he sent me back. I went back for the 3rd time. I tried to stick it out.
Man, I can't believe the judge sent him back a total of 3 times. Well, maybe even 4. I don't know. We'll see right now when he calls back. So, man, hopefully, I'm hoping the audio is coming in good. I double checked on one of my other devices. It seems like everything's good. I know that the visuals are not coming in smoothly, but that I'll have to figure out another time. Obviously, I can't do it here while I'm on the air, but that's on my to-do list in the future to get that all sorted out and whatnot. And right now we're just waiting for Joseph or Tito to call back, or Tito to call back. And once he calls back, then he'll go ahead and continue with his journey. Right now he's in his early teens, And man, we still got about another 50 years that he has to cover before we get to where he's currently at right now. It's definitely here he is.
This call is now being
Global
recorded.
Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
TITO.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
Hello.
So again, I left, and naturally I got caught again. So they sent me back to juvenile hall. I went in front of the same judge, and at this time I was about to turn 18. I was probably like about 6 months away from being 18. So he told me, you seem to want to play with the big boys, so it's either YA or I charge you as an adult and send you to county jail for 90 days. Well, I still had now like a year to do in voice placement. So when he said 90 days, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take that. 90 days in the county jail. And so he talked to my mother, and he tried me as an adult and sent me to the county jail for 90 days. So I got out they took me from juvenile hall and they took me to the county. And my brothers were well known there, so that didn't help. So as soon as I got there, they put me in a high power, and I loved it. I thought it was cool. I thought that was the thing. You name it, I thought it. And I stayed there 90 days. I got out right before my birthday, and that was my 18th birthday spent out there on the streets, and I never had a birthday out there again. That was it.
I want to bring you back to your county jail experience. So, your first time going in, what was going through your mind once you were booked in and whatnot, and you said that you went into high power and that you loved it. What was it that you would love about county jail?
Well, when I went to go stay with my brother and found out more about him, then I knew I was pretty much I could go anywhere, So when I went into the county jail, all I had to say is who I was, and people already had knew me, so they took me under their wing, and that means they took care of me because I was still a youngster. So they had me with older guys, had me with them, and they didn't let nobody bother me. I didn't have to do nothing crazy.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
I was spoiled in there. They anything I wanted, they pretty much gave me. They took care of me, I was hanging out with the older fellas, guys my age. They weren't even around them kind of people right there. So I liked it. It gave me a false sense of being one of the homies, one of the big guys, from Lake Elsinore. I was probably the first youngster ever in high power right there. I've got they have this little room in the hallway where it was called super Supermax, and I was in there. It was only a 2-man cell, and I was in there with a guy that was way older than me, you know, because I was acting up in there. So I kind of liked it in there and kept going back there too.
And do you remember around what year this was that this was taking place, and also what was like the racial makeup there, you know, in that county jail at that time?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if the correct word would be like most county jails, but it seems to be that way. We were always fighting against the blacks, so that was always anything could set that off, and I was involved in at least 2 of those in the county jail growing up. But yeah, that part right there was that was the scariest part of the whole thing, just being involved in one of those, because you never know, you know, anything could happen when you have a little melee riot like that against another race, because they don't care if you're a youngster or not. All they know is you're trying to attack them too, you know.
Yeah. And during this time, is your mom coming to visit you, your sisters or brothers? Are you having any contact with them? And then out of the 90 days, did you have to do the full 90 days, or did you end up doing less?
Yeah, back then, because the judge ordered that, because he tried me as an adult, I did the full 90. It was the full 90, and my mom and my sisters always came to visit me. Every weekend they were there.
And do you remember?
If my mom couldn't make it one weekend, my sisters they were there for sure.
And do you remember around what year this was in? Was this like the late 70s or the early 90s?
No, this was like this was like in 79, 80.
And when they're coming,
when I first went.
And when they're coming to visit you, are they allowed to? Because I know in LA County Jail back like in the 80s and maybe even the early 90s, you could have money. Were you allowed to have money back then?
Riverside County Jail, there was never allowed any money, ever. There was never. I know in LA they call it wet 20s.
Yeah.
And stuff, but yeah, in Riverside County, they never allowed any money. It had to be on your books.
Oh, okay.
But they would bring us. They could bring. I don't know what they call them these days, but back when I was growing up, there were shoes that we called winos. They were black, brown, blue. Are you familiar with those?
No, I'm not. No.
Yeah, maybe that person that you mentioned earlier, he would know, that was born in 65.
Oh,
he would know. Back in them days, there were shoes called winos. And they could bring them into the county jail and drop them off for us.
Yeah.
To wear in there, and most of the older guys, they would have their wives or girlfriends or homeboys. They would cut the little holes underneath the sole of the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
They would cut the little holes out, and they would pack it with whatever contraband, and then put the sole back on there, and that's how the contraband used to come in the wino shoes. I remember I used to get my winos at the swap meet for like $3.
Mm-hmm. It's those wino shoes you're referring to. It's not like the corduroy shoes, right?
Yeah, that's what they were. They were like corduroy.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking
The colors
about.
I remember were mostly black, brown, and blue.
Yeah.
They matched our khakis.
Yeah, those are the lounging shoes when you're just hanging around the house, just doing nothing.
Yeah, we called them winos back in the day when I was growing up.
Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind. Hey, I might add the thumbnail on this video. I'll put the winos on there.
Yeah. So people that are my age don't know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna have to ask ICEMAN if he referred to them as the winos, because he's actually from up north, from like the San Francisco area. So that would be interesting if
Yeah.
if they use the same terms to refer to them as the winos also.
Yeah, and like I said, I used to get mine at the swap meets.
Um,
Really cheap.
yeah, those things don't even weigh anything. They're like some cheap foam part on the bottom or so, and then the corduroy
Yeah.
around it. Yeah. So once you ended up coming home, what ended up happening? Did you see the light and decide that you were not gonna come back to county jail anymore, or by that point that you I know you had mentioned that you liked or you loved the high power unit.
Yeah, I just I thought it was cool, like any youngster. You're not using your brain's not fully developed, so you think certain things are cool. So I thought that was cool. I got out and I noticed I got a lot of my older homies. I got their respect, and older females. They were looking at me different, so I like that. And I just like I said, I had my sister threw me my 18th birthday, and I remember that vividly to this day. It was it was good. I liked it. I had a good time. About, I'm gonna say, 3 weeks, maybe a little more. I know it wasn't. It was. I think it was probably 3 weeks. Around 3 weeks after that, I got arrested for shooting at an occupied vehicle in a dwelling, and then I went to court, and that my mother bailed me out. She put up her house for collateral, and she bailed me out. While I was out on bail, I went to Orange County to a party, and I was dancing with this female that had a boyfriend, and he didn't like that. So we had an issue there, and I ended up shooting him and 4 of his homeboys. And I left, came back to Lake Elsinore, and I went to one of my homeboys' house and spent the night there. And then early in the morning, Orange County detectives raided the house, and they got me. So I was already out on bail, so they took me to Riverside County, and then they extradited me to Orange County. And that was when they sent me to prison. They sent me to, they gave me 6 years, and then I came to prison, and again, I fell right into the mix, and to me it was, you hear all these stories about, prison this, prison that, and to me it wasn't like that. It was people that I was used to being around,
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
I took to it, and I committed some offenses in there, and got more time. And then I finally got close to my release date, so I got out. I was out for 60 days, and I got arrested for murder, and here I sit.
On your first case that sent you to prison on 6 years, how much time did you have to do before you got paroled?
I did all of it. I did all of it because I was committing offenses in there.
All right, so the 15-minute call came to an end. He should be calling us back shortly, and then we'll go ahead and continue with his journey. He just, man, that definitely progressed pretty quickly. He committed one shooting, got out on bail, committed another shooting in another county, and for that one they didn't give him any bail, and he ended up getting sentenced to 6 years. And I'm gonna double check with him what year this was in that this took place in. And then I think within 60 days of him being released on that 6 years, he ended up going back to prison for. I'm assuming they gave him either 15 years to life or 25 to life. I'm not sure how they were sentencing back in those days, but we'll find out shortly as soon as he calls back. I'll go ahead and ask him. And there he is.
This call is now being
Esta
recorded.
es Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
TITO.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
Yeah, so back in them days, if you got for like for example, I got 6 years. Normally, if you did your time and programmed and did what you were supposed to do, you would cut that time in half. So it would have been a little more than 3 years. But I committed some offenses in here and got CDCRs 115s. So every time I got one, it would push my date back further and further and further. So it's called maxing out. What I did is I maxed out. I had to do the whole 6 years.
And when you were sentenced to your 6 years, what year was it that you caught your case in?
That was in 1984.
1984. And how old were you at this time?
That's where I got 22. I got my CDC number that I have right now. Which is the C number. So
you didn't even discharge that number. You've only had one CDCR number.
Yep, because I only lasted 60 days out there, so I came right back.
So earlier on, you had mentioned your first shooting that you were arrested for. And what caused that shooting? Was it due to gang activity, or was it just a random act of violence? How did that go down?
Yeah, it was a gang activity, street gang activity. I was me and my brother was driving around, and it was a black guy that he always had a problem with us, the Garcia boys. So he was sitting out in front of his house in his car. I could see.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
He was drinking a can of beer, and I had my weapon on me, so I seen him and I took advantage of that and I shot at him. I didn't hit him, but they charged me with shooting at an occupied vehicle in a dwelling. That's when I went to. I got arrested for it, and then my mother put up her house and bailed me out.
And what kind of sentence did you get on that case, or did they run it together with your case from Orange County?
They ran it. Yeah, they ran it all together. They ran that case and the Orange County case together, and gave me the 6.
And you know, let me ask you something, because man, you were in prison when prison was prison. It's definitely a different.
Yeah, I came right. It was called in Spanish. It was called the guerra, but it was in right during the war between different people in there, and I came right on it.
And what prison was it that you went to at that time? Because I'm assuming California had way less prisons than they do now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, back in them days, everybody in Southern California came to Chino, California. That was called the guiding center for everybody that lived in the southern part of California. And if you lived in the northern part of California, you went to Vacaville. That was the guiding center for them. And I came in, and I went there first, and then I seen the counselor. And then back then they competed. You go through like a physical. You go and they check you, the doctor and all that. The counselor talks to you. They want to know your mother's name, your father's name, how many siblings you have, your grandparents, if you've ever been to the Army, a lot of different things, and they go by a point system. And there's certain things that if you have, you don't get points, but if you don't have, you get points. Like if you graduated or have a high school diploma, I didn't, so I got points for that. And the higher your points, that determines the prison you'll go to. And back then, the only major prisons back then were Folsom, San Quentin, Tracy, Vacaville, Soledad. Them were the main prisons that were actually you were probably going to go to. And that's what I ended up doing. They sent me to Soledad, which was called the Gladiator School. And Tracy was another one that they called the Gladiator School. That was for people up north. They went to that one if they were had a violent history. You either went to Soledad Central or Tracy, which they're identical prisons. They're built the same way. So I went to Central Soledad, and then of course I got in trouble there, and I was shipped immediately to San Quentin during the war. And I could say that was really scary right there, because you witness things that you don't even want to see, you know, that will stick with you forever. It hardens you.
So I'm assuming you saw some people or individuals lose their life.
I've seen I've seen a lot of you know that how they use that word PSD or whatever. What's that? What do you call it?
PTSD.
Yeah. I didn't even know what that word meant, but yeah, that's, you see a lot of things. San Quentin has their own cemetery. It's called Boot Hill. So, I mean, I witnessed a lot of things that were, to this day, I could close my eyes and see it again, you know?
Yeah. Would you mind sharing some of those things that you saw, or you if you don't want to relive them, I fully understand.
Okay, I can. This one certain time I was out on because like I said, we were all locked down and segregated. So it was the Southern white and Southern Mexicans and whites were all on one yard, and it's about the size of a little bit bigger than a basketball court. A full-size basketball court, it's probably a little bit bigger than that. And there you probably have like, I'm going to say at least 50 guys on that yard. And back in them days, we had weights. So they got it. The weights were on one side of the yard. And again, I was like 22 years old. I was a youngster, first time. And I was walking with one of my older homeboys. And he told me, "Hey, come over here, youngster." So he took me over there and sat me down. I was probably, I'm going to say a good 10 feet from the bench press. And I was watching this guy. He was bench pressing, and there was a spotter behind him, and another guy standing like on the side of him, counting how many reps he was doing. And they let him do the reps until his last struggle one. You know how when you first get on a bench press, you start off, you're pushing it real good.
Yeah.
But once you start getting worn down, that thing gets heavy and you're struggling for that last one. Well, I looked over at him because I was like, man, this guy, he ain't going to make it. And they stabbed him like, at least, they stayed on him. And that weight bar landed right on his neck. So I'll never forget that incident right there. And they shot, because back then they didn't like nowadays they have warning shots and stuff like that. You hardly ever see them fire the real gun. They'll use a block gun or throw spray or a bomb. But that day they shot all at the wall and stuff. We all got down, and they came and carried that guy out. Of course, he didn't make it. He died right there, you know. But I've witnessed a lot of that. And I've been a part of a lot of that, you know, I'll never forget, you know. Now that I'm older, I look back and I'm like, man, you know, that could have been me anytime, you know.
And let me ask you, so once you paroled, so you said what year was it that you went in? 80.
I went in at 84.
84, and you did 6 years, so you got out in 88.
Yeah.
And then you only lasted 60 days, you know. So after witnessing, you know, all that, you know, the worst that people could have to offer, why did you commit another crime, you know, to go back in and put yourself into that situation again?
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
Well, it's like, I really can't, the best way to describe that is, not having no sense. There's a saying that you do the same thing over and over. You're hitting that wall over and over, and you're not getting no different results. So that was me. I just kept hitting that wall, thinking that wall would move and not me. You know. Now that I'm older, I look back at that and I'm like, man, I lost all my life in here for, nothing. I had a good family of my sisters, my brothers, my nephews, my nieces. I call them every day, at least 2-3 times a day. I have to spread my phone calls out. Now that we got these tablets, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But they all expect me to call them, so I call them, and my nieces that I've never even seen, I know them by phone,
Yeah.
And my nephews. I went back to the county jail on a resentencing in 2021, and I ran into one of my nephews that I've never met in my life.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
He was in the county jail, and I met him in the county jail for the first time. He didn't even know I was his mother's brother.
Oh, wow.
He knew my name, but he's never seen me by face.
And how did he figure it? How did you guys figure out that you guys were related?
Well, when I came out for David, as soon as I got there, I called my sister, and I told her, hey, I'm in the county. And she goes, which one? Because in Riverside County, you have downtown, and then you got Southwest, you got Indio, and you got Blythe. 4 county jails in my county. So I told her I was downtown, but that they were going to send me to Southwest. So she said that her son was there, my nephew. And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to see him.
All right, so the call came to an end. He should be calling us back shortly, and then we'll go ahead and continue. Man, that's a trip. I gotta ask him. Well, first we gotta get into his case. His controlling case that got him to prison, and what was his original sentence. And then he said he went back to court in 2001, so which was 3 years ago, and he got resentenced. So, man, so from 1988 till now, that's a lot of that's a whole lot of years, man. In 1988, I was like 7 years old. I was living in the Florence area. So definitely many moons ago. Anyhow, hey, I appreciate you if you're watching the stream live. I see there's 3 people in there. Really appreciate it. If a ICEMAN is out there, got a question for you. Did they call the corduroy shoes winos in the area you came from? I know in South Central they will refer to them as boulevards. But man, I used to just call them the corduroy shoes. Anyhow, so right now when we're talking, it sounded like he had I don't know. I could hear the tone. No sé. I'm not sure what's happening here. see, I'm pull the plug on that call and just wait for him to call back. I'm not sure. It seems like the system was having some technical difficulties or some type of glitches, and it was probably just best just to disconnect it because it didn't seem like it was gonna be going anywhere. It was just gonna be a blank screen, if you will. So here we are. As the wheel turns, I'm hoping the audio is coming up pretty good. I know the feed it's I believe it's not changing, if you will. It seems like it's a bit laggy, but I guess I have to make some adjustments on the way that I have my stream set up. Either I'm trying to push too much information out on the resolution, and here we go.
This call is now being recorded.
Global Link. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
TITO.
un individuo encarcelado en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5.
5.
Gracias por utilizar Global Link.
Hello, Tito.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think this would be a good point to leave off on your story right now and continue on another day. I do have some other things going on, but I'll be available on I believe Thursday and Friday. If any of those 2 days work for you, then we could go ahead and continue on on either of those days.
That'll work.
Okay.
Okay, that'll work.
All right. So then Thursday then at the same time.
Yes, same time.
Okay. All right. Cool. Perfect. So I want to go ahead and thank you and the listeners. I thank you for calling in and being on here for us a little bit over 2 hours and sharing bits and pieces of your journey. I know once you get into the California Department of Corrections, a lot of things are happening, when you get there. So I'm definitely interested in, picking your brain and asking you questions, of the things that you went through and saw while you were there. Over the last 40 years, there's been a lot of changes that you witnessed. So I want to see your point of view of how it was back then and to what it is now.
Okay. I look forward to that.
All right. Then, well, we'll go ahead and we'll be in contact, and we'll be looking forward to you hearing from you on Thursday then.
Okay, James, you and your audience have a good day.
All right. Thank you. You as well.
Okay.
All righty. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I want to go ahead and give a shout out to ICEMAN, always supporting in here, and also I want to give a shout out to Eric Martinez. He tapped in on the chat. He wrote "Buenas tardes, saludos." Cut the live chat listening from the Hale. That's right. Hey, that's what I think. That's the most of my YouTube that I'm able to catch. I'm able to catch at work. But don't tell anybody that I told you that. Anyhow, hey, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And like I say around here, life's like a candle. Once you blow it out, it's lights out. And with that, I am out. A rato.